Daydreamaholic by C. Don McCallum. Chapter 2. The hand on Marcie's shoulder pushed the pause button on her daydream. For now, Sammy had relinquished her position of waiting in the bustling doorway to rouse her friend from her reverie. She took Marcie's flute out of her hand and pushed her way up to the shelves. Sammy looked worried about something. Sammy never looked worried about anything. Something was up. "Excuse me," Sammy said, holding the flute in front of her like a lance aiming right where she wanted to go. "Hey," a girl squealed. "It can't be helped," Sammy explained in a very official tone. "Fashion emergency. So sorry." Sammy always had a way of making something sound a lot funnier or more serious than it really was. Marcie always thought her friend would make a great actress someday. "You can't do that," another girl said. Sammy ignored the girl and exited the crowd of girls with the same confidence she had going in. Dusting off her hands, she looked Marcie in the eye. "There you go," Sammy said, "and we're off." "Thanks," Marcie giggled. "I'm so out of it this morning." "Yeah, I was wondering, what's up with your jacket?" Sammy asked. "Huh? Your jacket. Look at it." Sammy stopped in the noisy hallway, turned to Marcie, and pulled at the bottom edge of her jacket. Oh no! Marcie couldn't believe it. Her jacket was bunched up under her backpack and hanging in crazy angles everywhere. "I was in such a hurry to walk behind Brandon on the way to school today that I must have forgotten check it." "He didn't notice, did he?" Marcie thought about it, aghast. Her eyeballs just about popped out of her head. A wave of heat surged through her. Was that the reason he smiled? No, it couldn't be. No, she had given him a compliment. He wouldn't have smiled like that and blushed like that if he was just noticing how funny she looked. But his friends would have laughed at her because of it. That's why they had laughed at her. Blood rushed to Marcie's face, turning it crimson even before she slapped hands on her cheeks. Oh no, I think he did notice. Marcie's stomach sank. She wanted to hide. "Chad and Tyrone laughed when they looked at me. You know they talked about it. And Brandon was there. He probably talked about it too. He probably laughed at me too." "Hey, don't worry about it," Sammy reassured her friend and continued walking. "I'm sure he's had something like that happen to him." "You think so?" "Sure, everybody has it sometime. A spinach in your teeth kind of thing. I'm sure he feels real stupid when he messes up in football. What with everybody looking at him, I bet he's got people laughing at him left and right, so don't worry about it. And you know that doofus Chad gets laughed at on a regular basis." Marcie knew Sammy was right, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. About the sound of their laughter and how she must have looked to them, how she must have looked to Brandon. As Sammy walked into the choir room to put away her music folder, Marcie said, "I'll meet you outside the bathroom. I'm going to make sure I don't look like a total loser." "You look fine, but okay," Sammy said and disappeared through the doorway. "I'll see you after class." Like a mirror-seeking missile, Marcie shot to the nearest bathroom. She thought of what Sammy said on the way there. "Somehow, I just can't imagine Brandon ever doing something like this in a million years." She tugged at her jacket. "I mean, he's just so perfect. I have got to be the biggest dork in the whole 7th grade. I probably couldn't even get a goofball 6th grader to ask me out." Then Marcie heard a man's voice come over the loudspeaker. "Students, may I have your attention, please?" Every student stopped what they were doing and looked up at the speaker. The hallway was so quiet Marcie looked around for a Martian with a time-freezing ray gun. Would the biggest dork in the 7th grade please report to the office? Immediately, Marcie saw people's eyes falling on her. In typical fashion, in case everyone hadn't heard, the announcement was repeated. Would the biggest dork in the 7th grade please report to the office? All the students came out of their weird little time warp because they knew they weren't the ones being called. Every single one of the assumed Marcie was the one being called. Marcie slapped her hands on her face again. "Marcie Taylor," she commanded, "just stop it. Stop daydreaming." and stop imagining the worst. She pushed the heavy bathroom door forward. A shower of hairspray and perfume smacked her right in the face. A giggling that made her heart sick weaseled its way to beat on her eardrums. In front of full-length mirrors, girls crowded around to touch up their makeup while waiting for curling irons and hair straighteners to get hot. Eyelash curlers curled eyelashes. Hairbrushes gently pulled through long tresses with great care and love, nurturing every strand. Short shorts were tugged at as girls practiced, making them look longer for when a teacher was nearby and shorter when a boy was in the vicinity. This bathroom was no ordinary bathroom Marcie had stumbled into. This was cheerleader central, and the stalls were talking. "Whatever," the voice of one cheerleader cried. "He did not say that," said the voice of another cheerleader. "Yeah," another voice said, "but Brandon still hasn't asked me to the dance yet." Marcie's heart stopped. She couldn't breathe. She knew that voice coming from behind the stall. That was the voice of Tabitha McLean, the most popular, and according to most of the boys, the prettiest girl in school. "The fall fling is only 2 days away," Tabitha's nasal whine went on from behind the stall door, "and I already have a couple of dresses and some really cute shoes to choose from, but no guy." Zombie-like, Marcie maneuvered her leaden feet to a spot in front of one of the mirrors and stood behind a girl patiently holding a curling iron in her hair. Absently, Marcie stroked her hair, making it flat and smooth. She threw her backpack up against the wall. She pulled at her clothes like your average fashion-conscious girl perfecting her look, but her mind and ears were focused on Tabitha's voice. Who knows what kind of sensitive information might be revealed about Brandon in this place? The stall latches slid open. Tabitha and the other cheerleaders strolled out with their eyes already focused on themselves in the mirror. Just as Tabitha gave her hair a flip, Marcie noticed something flutter in through one of the air vents. A little fairy, the one that she used to hang out with back in elementary school that happened to look very much like Marcie, hovered over Tabitha's head with a goofy grin on its face. "Would you like me to make you invisible?" the little Marcie fairy asked. Marcie was just about to open her mouth and beg, "Yes, please," when she heard another voice. It came from inside the mirror. Coach Marcie and her chalkboard full of strategies stood with her hands on her hips in the mirror. "Beat it, you!" The reflection held up a fist, ready for some action. "We're trying to listen here." The fairy held her hands to her face and screamed. She dropped her magic wand and flew back into the air vent. Marcie stared back in the mirror, relieved her reflection resumed its usual copycat responsibilities. She felt Tabitha's eyes on her back, assessing her outfit, her shoes. She was making mental notes of her imperfect hair and lack of makeup. Knowing they would talk about her as soon as she left, she didn't think she'd leave just yet. Pretending not to notice the head cheerleader, she grabbed her backpack and slipped into a stall to act like she had some business to take care of in there. But what she was really doing was waiting for any other news about Brandon, even though she knew that with her presence discovered, the conversation was probably over. Girls like that don't give out highly classified, top-secret information about a boy like Brandon when a girl like Marcie was around. Marcie waited in the stall, trying to collect her thoughts. There was no way she was going to leave before them. She wouldn't feel safe again until she heard the door close behind Tabitha and her chattering crew of friends. "Well, all I know is that he better ask," Tabitha said, clearly not caring who heard that little bit of information. As if her statement had signaled the official end of the conversation, the cheerleaders started shoving their stuff in their way 2 big duffel bags and helping each other make last-minute fixes to perfect their looks that would have to carry them all the way to the little break they got after lunch. When Marcie finally heard the girls parading out, the precious thump of the door shutting and the silence overtaking the restroom, she caught a breath for the first time that morning and made an exit of her own. She knew class would be starting soon, and the last thing she needed after this terrible morning was to be late to Mrs. Pitt's class. Thank you for listening to Daydreamaholic by C. Dawn McCallum. If you're enjoying this story, please consider sharing it with someone you know, and please like the video and subscribe to this channel to help others discover these stories.